Hi, I'm Lou Stagner, and I'm the Data Insights Lead at Arcos. And I'm here to answer a few of your questions from social media. This question comes from Nick Feel. Where do high handicap players lose the most strokes on average? Is it distance, penalties, putts? Well, the first way I would answer this is everybody's a little bit different. You're going to have some high handicap players that are fantastic putters and some that are really weak putters. This is one of the main reasons it's so important to track your stats, because we all have our own unique individual blueprint on how we perform on the golf course. But knowing nothing else about you, I would say high handicaps are typically losing the most strokes with their long game. That would be their approach play and their driver, and working on that, better contact, better low point control is going to help you improve your game. This question comes from Sean. How often do players miss the green from greenside bunker shots? Let's start off with 15 handicap players. They miss the green 30% of the time. For our 10 handicap friends, it's 22% of the time. 5 handicaps are 16% of the time, and scratch players are 11% of the time. This next question is from Sierra on Instagram. What chipping distance has the same expected shots as a 30, 40, and 50-foot putt for a scratch handicap? From 30 feet on the green, that's the same as a 6-yard chip in the fairway. 40 feet is equal to 8 yards, and 50 feet is 10 yards. Again, I want to note that these are all from the fairway. There is no chip from the rough that's going to be better than a 30-foot putt. This is why it's so important to hit as many greens as we possibly can. This next question is from Oliver Hooper. Which wedge has the best strokes gained for mid-handicappers? For example, sand wedge versus 60-degree wedge. For mid and high handicap players, lower lofted wedges typically perform better. So I would encourage you, if all you're doing is reaching for your 60 or higher than that, I would want you to put a lower lofted wedge in your hand for all of your shots around the green. Test that out, see how it works for you, because most players in that handicap range tend to perform better with lower loft. This next question is from Dan. Is it better to hit driver or layup off the tee? The answer there is you want to hit the ball as far as you can, as often as you can, making sure you're keeping it in play, taking into account things like OB and other penalty hazards. This question comes from Travis. Would you be better off chipping or putting when off the green? It's a really interesting question. I've looked at this in depth. For mid to high handicappers, you want to get that putter in your hand as often as you possibly can, even when you're a good distance off the green putting through the fairway. So this is something I would want you to work on in practice. If you have an area on your golf course where you can hit putts from the fairway, I would tell you to work that into your practice routine. As your handicap starts to get lower, it's okay to get a wedge in your hand for some of those, but I really want you to lean more towards using the putter as often as you can. This next question comes from Michael. Punch out or hero shot? As a math guy, I'm going with the punch out, Michael. David Nelson asks, how does Arcos handle when you hit 3/4 or knockdown shots with your irons? The short answer there is Arcos really doesn't care. Doesn't care whether you're hitting a fade or a draw, knockdown shot, or just a stock iron shot. Strokes gained just cares about where you started and where the ball finished. This question comes from Frank the Tank on Twitter. I just finished my 45-day trial and started my membership. I'm about 20 rounds into the app so far. Do you have any tips on how to interpret the data? Well, the first place I would tell you to start, Frank, is on that main page. And you're going to get a breakdown of your strokes gained by driver, approach play, short game, and putting. I would look and see which areas are strongest and which areas are weakest. The weakest areas is where I might focus a little bit more of my practice time. Our next question is from David. He asked, what recommendations do you have to translate the Arcos data into practice strategies in drills? Well, the first place I'd start, David, is on the main screen and find out what part of the game you're weakest in. And one of the really cool things about Arcos is it's going to allow you to dive down and get more granular on that facet of your game. So let's say it's your approach play. you're going to be able to look at in detail and see where your approach play is weakest. And that's now part of the game that you'll be able to focus on in your practice to help you improve. This next question is from Michael Taylor. He asks, how do I find out how I'm performing with each club? On your main screen down at the bottom, click on the clubs icon. The next screen that pops up, at the very top, there's going to be a drop down there. Select that and choose strokes gained. Now you're going to be able to see the average strokes gained per shot with each club in your bag. This is data that even the pros don't have. This next question comes from Harry Makes the Scene on Twitter. Does strokes gained for your short game include the impact of the putt? Nope. Next question. This next question is from Golfer HD on Twitter. Why does the screen that displays driving statistics include all clubs off the tee and not just the driver? With strokes gained off the tee, that's going to include all tee shots on par 4s and par 5s regardless of the club you hit. If you want to get details on a specific club, driver, 3-wood, hybrid, you can go on the clubs icon at the bottom of your main screen and you'll be able to see strokes gained for each club. Next question is from Lee. What stats should I share with my coach to get better? The answer there, Lee, is all of them. I think it's a great idea at the beginning of a lesson to open up Arcos and navigate around the app with your coach, showing your coach all of your stats. This is going to give them such valuable information on how you're playing and what you need to work on. This next question is from Tony Rotella. I'd like to better understand how Arcos handles strokes gained on tee shots that involve recovery situations. This is a great question. Currently, Arcos is using an algorithm very much like what the PGA Tour does in ShotLink. We make a determination on if this is a recovery shot or not. In future versions of Arcos, we will be looking to add a flag that you will be able to manually set to indicate a recovery shot. This next question is from Justin Houlihan. Is there a way the Arcos app can help us judge what tees may be optimal to play based on our past 10 to 20 rounds? Justin, I would say to look at your smart distances with your driver. And the USGA and the PGA of America came out with a Tee It Forward program about 10 years ago. And they give guidance on the length of course that you should be playing based on how far you're hitting your driver. Following this advice is going to help you enjoy the game a lot more. This question is from Carla5291 on Twitter. When a player adds distance, for example through speed training, their strokes gained off the tee will typically improve. However, what effect does that distance gain have on strokes gained approach stats? This is a great question, Carla. Really interesting question. And it's going to end up being a research project for me. I'm going to dive into this one, do a really in-depth analysis. I'm going to write this up in my newsletter and on the Arcos blog. Grant Adams asks, under club usage, some shots are colored green and some are colored gray. What does that mean? On that tab, the gray shots are being removed for your smart distances. These are the outliers. These are the chunks or the ones that you blade that go really long and roll down a cart path. The green ones are the shots that are being used to calculate your smart distance, so we have an accurate representation of how far you typically hit the golf ball. Charles K. from Twitter asks, how does Arcos account for the effects of wind, rain, heat, and cold in their data? Well, when it comes to your smart distances, Arcos is taking into account the local weather conditions. So we can adjust how far you're hitting the golf ball for the conditions that you're playing in. An example would be if you had a 150-yard 7-iron that you hit, but you're playing into a 20-mile-an-hour wind, we would adjust that so that 150 yards would be much longer in no wind situation. This next question is from Christopher on Facebook. For new users, fresh out of the box with maybe only a couple of rounds in the app, what are some tips, tricks, and things to look out for while using Arcos? Christopher, the place I would tell you to start that's important is make sure you're editing your rounds when you're done playing. It should only take you just a second to go in. Arcos is doing all the heavy lifting for you. Go in, check your putt distances, make sure all your shots are there, make sure everything's accurate. That good quality data is going to help you get the information you need to help you start performing better. This next question is from Rob on Twitter. What steps should you take when you hit your first drive OB off the tee? Should you log 2 penalties, or should you log 1 penalty and force another shot to be logged? Rob, it's a really common question. We get this one all the time. Simple answer here is you need to log 2 penalties. So the easy way to think of this is it's a 2-stroke penalty to hit it out of bounds. So you would log 2 strokes in that situation. If you did something like hit it into the water where it's only a 1-shot penalty, you'd only add 1 stroke there for penalties. Next question is from Brian A. on Facebook. I find the process of setting the pin on each hole very frustrating. What is the best practice to set the pin? One of the easiest ways you can do this, Brian, is with the Link Pro. There's a small button here on the side. You walk over next to the flag, press the button, and it's going to mark the location of the hole in the app easily for you. Your other option is on your Apple Watch if you happen to use one of those. Tap on your watch to mark the hole location. And finally, you can mark this in the app itself, right on your phone. Some people like to do this after each hole. Some people like to wait until the end of the round and mark each hole location. Really personal preference and whatever works best for you. Our next question is from CJ. Is there a way to see what distances I need to work on with my irons? You want to start on the main page there, CJ. Click on the approach and scroll down a bit. And you're going to be able to see your performance by distance. You'll be able to look at strokes gained, greens in regulation, and proximity. And remember, you can baseline yourself against different handicaps. Scroll at the top, choose the handicap you're benchmarking against yourself, and you'll be able to see all your data. Our next question is from JMR Chab on Twitter. How do you use the app to prepare for a tournament on a new course? Great question. So find the course you're going to play, click on Start Round, and in the lower left corner, you'll see Preview Caddy feature. When you click on that, you're going to be able to navigate around the golf course and get some guidance from the Preview Caddy on how you might be able to play each hole. This question comes from Scott Sapsford on Instagram. What is a hidden or harder to find stat in the app that users could benefit from? This one's really cool. Clubs icon on the bottom of your main screen. When you click that at the very top of the next screen, there's a drop down. Click that and you're going to get simulated distances. And one of the things I really love about this is you can adjust the wind and you can see how much longer or shorter each of your clubs are going to go into the wind or with the wind, and you're also able to set the strength of the wind. So if you wanted to know how far your 7-iron might fly into a 20-mile-an-hour wind, you're going to be able to set that in the app and get that information. This question comes from Graham Hardy on Facebook. Is there a way you can add notes? Yes, Graham, there is. Go to your activity icon on the bottom, find the round you're looking to add a note to, click on More in the lower right-hand corner, and you'll see an Add Notes option there. And you can type in whatever you like, whether that's a swing thought that may have been working well or any other note you want to capture for that round. This question comes from Jessica. The biggest enemy to the future of golf in the US is how long it takes to play. What are some ideas to speed up play? Well, one of the best things you can do here is tee time intervals. That is typically the biggest culprit of slow play. It's like a traffic jam. There's just too many people all at once, and that slows things down. So if you have that issue at your golf course, I would encourage you to convince them to spread out tee time intervals. This next question comes from Jesse. Who is a better co-host, Mark or Greg? Jesse is referring to the podcast that I do with Mark Crossfield and Greg Chalmers. So if I had to pick one, I would have to go with Greg, but that's only because that answer is really going to annoy Mark. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on X at Lou Stagner or my friends at Arcos at Arcos Golf for more opportunities to get your questions answered.